The Girl with the Needle is the Oscar-nominated film for Best International Film and may be one of the darkest movies I have seen in years and years. It was directed by Magnus von Horn. This movie tells the story of the Danish serial killer Dagmar Overby, but it is not told through that perspective. The story is about Karolina, a low-income factory worker in a post-World War I Copenhagen, Denmark. Karolina is evicted from her home because she can't afford rent. This first scene establishes very fast that we are in a world where next to no one cares about our main character, or seemingly anyone in the lower class. Carolina's husband served in the war but has not been seen in a year, and because he has not been declared dead yet, she is unable to apply for any kind of widow's compensation to help her with her living situation. Her boss is sympathetic to her situation and tries to help her, and they soon fall in love and she becomes pregnant. Her husband then returns unexpectedly and has a very disfigured face from war wounds he sustained. Carolina believes she is on her way to greener pastures, so she rejects him. The man she is hoping to be with takes her to meet his mother after promising marriage. During this interaction, the mother demands she be examined by a doctor that she is in fact pregnant, and then is rejected by the mother, and her weak son rescinds his marriage proposal, and Carolina is let go from her job as well, leaving her completely hopeless. Nearly homeless and seemingly with no one to turn to, she goes to a local bathhouse and attempts to get rid of the baby in her own way, but is uplifted by the generosity of a woman named Dagmar, who tells her that the best option is to contact her once she has given birth so she can give it up for adoption. Months later, Carolina asks to work for Dagmar and help with feeding the infants being given up for adoption as a way to pay her debt to Dagmar for not being able to pay for giving up her baby. The Girl with the Needle is in black and white, but it is not done in a gimmicky way. Since the film takes place in 1919, the style of the film is fitting with the time period, but it is also great at conveying the malaise that the entire story is covered in. This is one of those movies that is hard to watch for anyone. I'm someone who loves and watches a ridiculous amount of horror films, and this movie left me feeling very uncomfortable. It is so dour throughout the entire story. This movie won't be for everyone, but it is a story that needs to be told, and I'm so glad it has been told, and is one of the best movies I have seen in the last year. And I don't know if I ever want to see it again because of how dark it is. There is disturbing imagery at the start of the film showing distorted faces and faces on top of faces to convey to you that while this is a horror film, it is not a horror film like, say, Smile or Friday the 13th. It's a horror film in just how real the subject matter is, and the constant dark undercurrent that is always on display left me feeling uneasy, knowing that this movie had its foot on my throat and wouldn't let go. The cinematography is absolutely striking, and I'm not just talking about the black and white. The way the camera is placed as a neutral person observing the events this poor woman is going through helped to add to her isolation. The city she lives in looks so much of its time, and there is nothing that made me think this couldn't be a movie that was made during that time, except for the fact that it has spoken dialogue, and talkies weren't prominent until about a decade later. But that's neither here nor there. The look of this picture blows me away. Once the two women establish a bond with each other that seems unbreakable, that's when the film wants you to let your guard down. It wants you to care about this relationship these two women have. But even when things seem innocent enough, like when Carolina goes to a movie theater and sees what appears to be her first silent film, you can see the two faces of Dagmar working every time she is on the screen. These two actors are dynamic and amazing to watch. I also have to praise the makeup design done on Carolina's husband. At first he is wearing a mask to cover his injuries, but once you see his face, it is disturbing but realistic, and you feel sad for him because of how he obtained his injuries in the war. And Carolina just seems to discard him many times throughout this story, sometimes because she thinks she has it better than what he can offer, other times because she doesn't want the baby she is pregnant with, but he does. They very obviously have a tough relationship with each other. The husband is taken advantage of by the old carny shows during that time, and it's sad watching people mock and become appalled by the way he looks, and how he's used for entertainment, which I'm sure a lot of soldiers went through, unfortunately, since I'm sure they weren't given the proper respect they deserved. I'm not as familiar with this country's role in World War I because I'm American, and I was mostly taught that side of the war. So if I'm missing any details about what these soldiers went through, I apologize and would love more information if anyone would want to volunteer it to me. We aren't made aware of the reality of Dagmar and who she truly is until the last act of the film, but that's by design. I always knew there was something off about her, but they show her malevolence in a way that made me turn my head away from the screen because they show her murdering one of these children. But they film it in a way not to make it look exploitative. It more implies it, and I was left discomforted by the implication of what was happening more than any head slicing I saw in a horror film in recent years. It's heartbreaking, but that stuff needed to be in there so we could fully hate this woman, even if what she thinks she is doing is right. This movie, like Memoir of a Snail from last year, puts its foot on your throat and never lets go until the final scene. So this movie may only be for people who can take the extremely dark material it is going for. The only issues I have with this movie involve the little 7-year-old girl that stays with our two main women. We are led to believe she is the daughter of Dagmar, and there is supposed to be a strong bond being built between the little girl and Carolina, but Carolina is very dismissive of her for long stretches of time. And because I didn't feel like their relationship evolved in a significant way, the final scene of the movie, while sweet, didn't leave me with the emotional impact it wanted to since I didn't have a feeling of true bonding between these two people. I also think the penultimate scene taking place in a courtroom felt very movie-like with its presentation. I'm not sure how the legal system works in that country or how it did 100 years ago, so maybe that's how it really was, but since I've seen so many courtroom dramas and movies from the Hollywood Golden Age, it felt like another one of those. But maybe if I was more informed on the legal system, I would accept it more. Those issues aside, though, this movie is powerful, brilliantly acted, and has the guts to show something this dark and not pull any punches. If you want levity, then this isn't the movie for you. But if you don't mind raw material that is real and in your face and doesn't sugarcoat any of the going-ons in this story, then I implore you to check this movie out. This is one of those instances where I'm glad the Academy Awards exist because I might not have been introduced to this film without its nomination. Just like I said in my review of The Last Showgirl, this is not a movie with a linear narrative to it. We are mostly just following this young woman go through a dark situation that makes you sympathize with her. But we're just passerbys with it, and like The Last Showgirl, I love movies like this. I recommend you see it, please. It's a dark and heartbreaking film, but if you can manage to handle its dark material, you will see a beautifully dark movie that I don't think any American would have the guts to ever create. I give The Girl with the Needle 4 stars out of 4. I love this movie and I'm so glad I saw it, but to be honest, I don't know if I could ever see it again just because of how unsettled it made me feel. But that's the case with some of the rawest movies ever made, so that can't be a knock against it. It's a great film and it deserves the nomination it received. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'm going to try and review a few more of the international films and documentary films nominated for this year's Academy Awards as well. And yes, I am going to be doing a second review of Amelia Perez soon as well because I need to give a proper analysis with that movie so everyone can calm the hell down. Anyway, if you like this, please like and subscribe. Here's links to my other videos. Follow me on social media if you like. And until next time, I am Ghost.